I mean, this is what we were all so excited about. We're going to be so different. We're going federally legal. This isn't like you guys. It's not state by state. It's going to all change.
Soil to the Oil Media, this is the Cannabis Detector with your host and California cannabis industry expert, Kristen Yoder.
Welcome to my Cannabis Detectors. I am so happy to have Kelly Morrow on today to speak about Canada and the BS that is going on in Canada that is incredibly similar to California and other states that have gone through legalization. So thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kristen.
Yeah, so why don't you start off by telling people about your background?
Okay, so I grew up in British Columbia in BC, and BC is a little bit different than the rest of Canada in that it has had an operating, we call it the gray market, for pretty much a decade, if not longer. So I don't know if you guys refer to things as black, gray, and white.
We do.
Okay.
Especially in California.
Okay. So basically, BC has been operating a gray market. Because I grew up there, I got to know a lot of people who were very passionate and in the gray market. And moving to Alberta, the province right next door, in 1999, it was a shock to the system that it was completely different here. There wasn't, one dispensary. There wasn't growers all over the place. There was nothing. So I felt, wow, I think it was the biggest, the difference that made me have the courage to go, hey, I can actually make a difference here. When legalization is going to happen, I can actually, and in Alberta, we also have a privatized liquor system. So that is different than BC. So that means I knew there was going to be privatized cannabis stores, and I saw a huge opportunity, but it was a little late. I decided about just over a year ago to open a retail cannabis store in Calgary. Yeah, it was kind of like all these puzzle pieces are fitting together, and this seems like a really great idea. I'm going to start writing a business plan. But yeah, so that's what I did, was started on a business plan, and I do have quite a few friends that are business owners in Calgary. So I was attending meetings at our entrepreneurial bank, and I thought, hey, I'll ask them just off the cusp. I know that banks don't support the cannabis industry. At least I thought they didn't. So I asked this bank, hey, here's the start of my business plan to open a retail cannabis store. What do you guys think? And they said, oh my God, we love it. We love it. We absolutely love it. And, we have 15 full-time staff dedicated to the cannabis industry, and you're exactly the kind of person that we want to support. Finish your business plan. And so I went home, finished it, and yeah, it was a pretty kick-ass business plan. Well, it still is, but basically nothing that's in it could actually happen as the laws started to unfold. All the uniqueness that I had put into this business plan started to become not allowed. So it had to be a single-use facility, and I had a glassblowing studio going in at the same time into my retail store. So certain things started to get pulled out along the way. I thought, okay, no problem. I can still work with this. So yeah, so basically the bank came back and said, yeah, we absolutely, we'll give you a small business loan to start this retail store. So I knew exactly where I wanted my location, right in my community. And I knew it would fit what I thought were going to be some of the bylaws coming out about proximity to liquor stores, proximity to schools, proximities to all these things. I approached the leasing landlord. Well, I think it was the leasing company for the landlord. And this was over Christmas holidays last year. And they said, yeah, we love I sent them my business plan, and they said, we love it. We love it. We love that you're in the community. We love that you're an entrepreneur. So yeah, we'd love to lease to you. Yeah. So I basically realized I needed some realtor help, went back to the bank, said, hey, I need a realtor. And they gave me one who was a little reluctant to work with me. Well, commercial landlords or commercial realtors are not at all keen on working with people trying to find retail store locations, and they haven't been for years. But this gentleman took me on reluctantly, and we made an offer. And and I started a 4-month negotiating process with the landlord. So to sum up that process, during the negotiating process, I got a call from my bank a couple months after they had approved my small business loan, saying that they had to retract that. They wouldn't even really give me a full explanation. I later found out apparently there was something that happened, I heard, in the U.S. banking system, which somehow affected the Canadian banking system, which somehow had any banks that had told any small businesses like myself that they were able to get a loan before legalization. And at this point, there wasn't even a legalization date. And I think actually that's what happened. Legalization was looking a little really iffy back in February. And something happened, and the bank phone said, sorry, but you can't have your loan anymore. I said, what? Are you kidding me? And no, they weren't kidding. And actually, I met a few people that were in my situation that apparently on the same day, we all got the phone call saying, yeah, sorry, no loan. So for a couple of weeks, we went back and forth. They were trying to say, oh, no, we're fighting for you. You're the top file. You know, you were the first person in Canada. And I said, well, that's great, but I don't have it anymore. And just to clarify too, that bank loan didn't include some of the major components that I needed as far as inventory costs and lease payments. So I knew I had to find my own angel investors and other people. So I was actively working on that. So when the blow came from the bank, I thought, no problem. Okay, I didn't really need that, so I can still work with this. So we're still negotiating. And by this time, we had received a counter offer back from the leasing company. And not only did they want a huge amount of money for the lease, they wanted 7% of gross sales over and above the lease payments. And at this point, I had no idea what margins were going to be. I had somewhat of an idea. I was comparing black market prices to medicinal prices because that was the only two kind of sets of numbers that I could see. So I had a good idea that there was still a lot of margin in there, but not enough to give a landlord 7% of gross sales. So we countered with crossing that off, and that was basically right before the applications were to be handed into the province. So how it works in Alberta is we have the provincial governing body called the AGLC, who's our liquor governing board and our gaming governing board, and now it's our liquor, gaming, and cannabis governing board. So they were accepting applications March 6th. And I'm attending all these events, meeting all these people, and people's hands are going up going, okay, you know, the AGLC said they were going to accept accept applications on March 6th, even with leases under negotiation. This was part of they had said, no problem, you know, if you're still negotiating, it's early, don't worry, but we want to get ahead of the game here. So we're taking applications even with a lease under negotiation. So I thought, okay, well, that's what I'm doing. So I was second person in line to hand in my beautiful application package with the lease under negotiation, and I literally handed that in, came home, opened my email, and found out that I didn't get my location.
Wait. In one day?
So basically what had happened is the night prior to the opening date for the provincial guidelines, my realtor had sent the landlord hey, you know, we're waiting on your counter. Kelly has an important date tomorrow. Can you get back to us? And it wasn't until they got back to us the morning of the applications being handed in. So yes, apparently the four of us actually handed in applications on that very spot, and only one of us had a signed lease. So I had in the questioning when somebody had said, hey, what happens if we hand in a lease under negotiation for a location that we don't get? And the AGLC said, oh, well, no worries, because you can just move that license to another location. And I'm thinking, okay, well, here's my opportunity. I need to find another location, which I had actually asked my realtor to find for months. I said, look, all our eggs are in one basket. We need another basket. I can't have. And he said, no, we cannot lose this spot. There are no other spots in Calgary. If we lose a spot, we're in trouble. And I'm going, there must be other spots. Can we please look? To which he said, well, if you want to look for another spot, I'll hand you to another realtor because I'm working with you because you're very organized and you found your spot. So we cannot. Yeah.
That's crazy because he would get paid anyways. Like if he found another. I mean, this is one of the problems people run into down here as well, is that these companies, the larger real estate companies, have been very hands off because they don't want to take on that liability of, taking in cannabis money, God forbid, until now. But
yeah, apparently there's still 25% of landlords in Calgary that aren't considering this kind of use yet. So here I am thinking, maybe I need to hover around those guys and try to convince them that I'm a good person and I'm here for the people. And there's some very closed-minded landlords, and then there are ones that are just trying to make as much money as possible.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same down there.
Oh, yeah, I got to tell you, California is exactly like BC. We have had a gray market, especially down here in SoCal. It's been about a decade, and going from essentially a quasi-criminal industry into a highly regulated industry, many people have been taken advantage of by the lawyers, by the landlords, by the consultants, because you're reliant on them. Most people can't go through this process on their own. And I don't know about Canada. Well, it sounds like you need to have a property. In California, not only do you need to already have the property, your property has to be compliant, which means they expect you to go in and turn it into a compliant building before you even know if you're going to get your application. Yeah, exactly. So people are in cities where they think, we're in the green zone, apparently, and they're going to regulate it soon. And they've been paying rent for years on a property waiting for the local government to regulate.
And really, and that's really the only way I realize now, with the gift of hindsight, that if I wanted in, I needed to have got a location years ago. And I do know a few people, like the couple entrepreneurs that I have my fingers crossed for, who are currently in appeals because larger corporations have said, you're within 300 meters of my back door. Yeah, so even those poor guys that did secure places years ago, seeing this coming, they didn't even have a guarantee. I mean, they're getting the shaft right now as well.
The bank, are they, now that it's been regulated, are they doing loans?
I believe so, because I have not talked to them in months, and I think they kind of thought, she lost her location, she's no good to us anymore, because that was basically the last communication. I was like, great, I've lost my location now, I'm actively looking for a new one. What if I decide to do something, and I threw out the licensed producer option, and they had said, that's already regulated, it's in the medicinal side, so we could talk about that. Otherwise, we're looking at October 17th. So at one point, I believe that date, when the date was there, I think I have a loan sitting there waiting to be used as of a couple of weeks ago, but I don't even know. And really, the opportunity to use it for anything right now is next to none.
Are you, but you are operating a store now, correct?
No.
No?
No. Sorry for the misunderstanding. No, I didn't get in. I am now sitting here going, I need to work for somebody. So actually, I went into the location that got the company that got my location, a very large corporate entity here, Nova Cannabis, owned by Aurora Cannabis, owned by Alcanna, this big umbrella. So I even went in there while it was under construction as soon as I found out, because for all these months, I haven't known who's going in there, who got the spot. And I've been actively doing other things on the side, working with some other companies, working on my growing, working on networking components. But no, as far as the store goes, I don't have one. But if you can't beat them, join them. I went in there and said, you know what, guys, you got my location. I still believe in this. I was rallying my community to be okay with this store. I need to work here. So we did, I had an interview. They were very nice and sweet and said, there's going to be lots coming up, but, we've got a couple months because there is no product. I don't know if you've heard. We have here.
Insanity. I mean, looking at that, at least you don't have to deal with that.
Well, and you know what? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, and in hindsight, they chose the largest corporate entity possibly because they knew they could weather this storm, and it's going to be a big one. It's worse than I thought it was going to be. And I don't know, had I got that spot, if I could have made it for 12 to 18 months of shortages. But
do you still want to do this? Do you still want to get into the cannabis industry and have your own store?
I definitely want to get into the cannabis industry. I don't know that I want my own store anymore. Perhaps, see, the way they're rolling out the guidelines is, that year one, we only have flour and oils, and then year two, we are going to have edibles and concentrates. And we all look to the south when we look at your markets and go, oh, wow, look at the future. It's all about edibles and concentrates. So I'm thinking there'll be a lot more opportunities for somebody like myself that has this creative business plan that couldn't go in year one. Maybe it is possible that I can work with it for year two. So
have you considered just partnering up with other people to increase your chance, or other companies?
Well, and this is kind of what's just happening right now. I'm getting people popping out of the woodwork going, hey, you sound like me, or, we should do this together. And I'm figuring it out. So, there's a few things. Yeah, I got to be cautious. I do think, and I love, and especially my women's groups, they're so supportive. You're going to get your store, Kelly. It's okay. And I'm going, okay, hang on. I don't know if I want my store. Yeah, I think there's more opportunities in this industry that will be more rewarding for me if I don't have that store. Because some of the rules that came into play, I thought I wanted to have this store so I could help educate my community and I could make everybody destigmatize. And you cannot mention one medical fact about the cannabis plants if you're in that store and you're working there. That is absolutely not allowed. The retail stores can only talk about, I don't even know, terpenes, I guess. And I'm trying to listen to what they're saying. They can talk about, they're very limited in what they can talk about. And
is that because they're not doctors, they're not pharmacists, or is it because it's a recreational store? Is there a difference between medical and recreational, or have they kind of just lumped it all together?
That's so cute. I was in an Uber. I don't know if you guys have Uber down there.
Yeah.
So I was in Uber, and my Uber driver asked me the same question a few days ago. He's like, well, there's a difference, right? The medical stuff, you put on, you eat, or you put in, you don't smoke it. And I'm going, no, hang on. It's all the same thing. No, okay. Well, so as far as the product goes, there is no difference. They're relabeling it as differences, but it is the same product coming off of the medicinal licensed producers that is into the recreational stores. Labeled slightly differently, and again, it seems like their recreational side is, the medicinal side is going heavy on terpenes as well. But yeah, so basically you have two options right now to get legal cannabis in Canada. You can be a medical patient, and that is a problem as well because there are so few doctors up here that really believe that cannabis is the medicine. And there was a stat, I tried to look it up again to make sure, I think there's about 86,000 doctors in Canada, and it was between 200 and 400 that will prescribe cannabis as a medicine, which leaves us, I've been going to different events where they're trying to educate the end user by saying, or the patient by saying, look, go to your family doctor and beg them. And in fact, that's what my father did. He went in and begged his family doctor to let him have cannabis. We don't call it a prescription up here. I think it's a scribe, or there's some word for it. Yeah, and most doctors will absolutely say no. My dad was lucky enough. His doctor said yes, and there was nothing more exciting for my dad than to have legal cannabis. It was just so exciting for him. And even when I went to visit him, and my parents are in BC, I took him to his first dispensary, and he signed up to get a card because he just wanted to be legit. And I know there's a lot of people that want to do it the legal way, obviously. On the medical side, there's a big challenge. There's some clinics that have popped up that are cannabis clinics. So basically, if your doctor, like my personal doctor, is absolutely not supportive of it, hasn't been for 15 years, I've asked her. And so I had to go around her back and go to a cannabis clinic, and you get to check whether you want your doctor to know or not. So I checked, no, I don't want my doctor to know. And then that was my way, now I have two doctors. I have my cannabis doctor. I have my personal doctor. And neither communicate. But for me, it was a choice that I knew, to me, it is a medicine. It helps me with my anxiety. I like CBD oil. I'm trying to make my own. And that's the whole interesting thing too. One of the other unique rollouts up here, I don't know if you've seen, not only do we not have any cannabis really, we have no legal means for people to grow their own. Most of us are allowed to grow. My province, we're allowed 4 plants. Some provinces have said no plants at home, but even for the provinces that have the 4 plants, there is zero starting materials right now. There is nowhere to get that from. You go on to the province website recreationally, there's nothing. And then there's no seeds yet. Apparently seeds are coming to our rec stores eventually, but it kind of seems like they don't really want you to grow your own.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Cannabis Detector Podcast. We're working hard to create new episodes for you every week that are informative, relevant, and highlight the lowlights in the California cannabis industry. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher, and follow us on Instagram for additional updates and to get a peek behind the scenes as we bring you the news you might not want to hear, but need to.
Yeah, I read about that, and are there medical shops and then recreational shops, or is it just legal shops, and then there's ones that are labeled as medical, but it's like the same as recreational, but with medical labels on it?
No, it's actually quite different because I was down in the States, and I know that you're like in Colorado, the medical and the rec are in the same building. Ours are not like that at all. So if you're medicinal, you either do a Skype interview with a doctor, which a lot of people are because there are so few doctors that a lot of companies are offering Skype services to get you, hooked up with a doctor who can get you your script. And then your options once you are a medical patient are to go online and purchase directly from the licensed producers. Now, if you can also, anybody can go to one of these rec stores now, which essentially has the same product, labeled a little bit differently, than you can get on the medical licensed producer site, except that these stores are pretty much empty right now. I don't know. I drive by the location that I tried to get almost every day, and there's constantly a lineup, so I do think they still have a bit of product. But no, other than that, you can order online as a medical user, or you can order online or purchase at a store as a rec user.
If you order online, does that mean they have availability more than if you were to go to a store? And why would you go medical if you could just go recreational? Are there different prices, or one doesn't have taxes and the other does?
Oh, I wish. So that was a big kerfuffle that's been going on. I couldn't believe that it didn't. I saw these petitions coming through and I'm signing them, and it's like, don't tax our medicine. And I thought, there's no way they're going to do that. But sure, yes, they did. So as of October 17th, now the medicinal side got imputed taxes as well, and they are $1 a gram or 10%, whatever is greater. So a lot on the medicinal side, quite a few of the licensed producers have stepped up and said, no, we don't want to push this onto you, so we're absorbing it right now. So some of them are, some of them aren't. They do, and for the past year, they have been promising, and I wasn't a medicinal. I didn't see all this stuff going down because I only joined, back in January. So apparently there have been many. Don't worry. Even my medical clinic does have little brochures saying, why would you be medical over recreational? And it's because they say that the medical side has more stock and they're going to give preferential treatment to the medical users. Although I'm starting to wonder if that's happened. I'm reading some reports of Tilray and CanTrust that their medical supply is quite low, and reality is that a lot of these companies, they can make more money selling it on the recreational market, or they can make more money by exporting it outside of Canada. So for them to give a discount to the medical users, that's really nice, but I don't know how long that's going to continue. And I sure as hell hope that they prioritize and make sure that the people who need it the most have access to it before the rec users. But it's a bit of a shit show right now. There's just not enough product for either market, quite honestly.
So are the LPs only serving are there medical LPs and recreational LPs, or are they just the same companies serving both sides?
Well, historically, and I believe as of earlier this week, there was about 114 licensed producers. You probably might know this more than me, of which I believe only half of them can sell their product, right? Because we have that, you'll get a cultivation license, and then it's generally 1 year before you have to have 2 successful crops, and then you can get your sales license.
Whoa, I have never heard of that. So if you have 2 successful crops, what do you do with them?
Well, you get them tested, and if they are successful, I don't know if you have to destroy them. I don't know the legits on that, but if they pass, boom, you're allowed to start selling your product.
Oh, okay. So your license is dependent on your product.
Correct.
Your sales license.
Yeah.
Because that would be freaking insane if they're like, okay, well, we know you can grow, so destroy everything, start over, and you can start selling it.
Well, you know what? It is possible that is. I don't know. What I do know is that a lot of, and this is part of the problem for supply, is that there aren't enough licensed producers. There aren't enough, yes, there's 114, but half of those can't sell yet. And then you had asked about, are some medicinal and are some recreational? So at first, everybody was medicinal. Then many of them chose both, said we're doing both sides. And then a few are popping up that are going strictly for the rec market. So, but they don't have product yet, as far as I know. The ones that are specifically recreational licensed producers, I don't believe there's any of them yet, because I don't think they have.
So a glut in the supply, the reason they're running out of supply is because they have not fully allowed people to start selling their product, but they're licensed, correct?
Well, that's part of the problem. There's a lot of licenses. There's, I think, hundreds in the queue that are trying to even get to the cultivation side. There's a big backlog between, hey, I want to be a licensed producer, and boom, I'm a licensed producer and I can sell. And it seems like several years it has been. I think they're trying to push them through quicker, especially because of the supply shortage. And what they're also doing is, as of October 17th, they were accepting applications for micro growers, which could change everything if it happens, because it'll allow the smaller guys and a lot of the gray market that has been going on in BC to participate. And I don't know, I haven't read the forms, I don't know how much they are yet, and I don't know what the wait time is to get that kind of a license. But I know a lot of us are hopeful that the smaller grow licenses will help change things, because the large grow licenses are the last number I heard, I think it was several $1 million, between $6 and $8 million to become a licensed producer, and the average time was 3 to 4 years. So it's a very different scenario on the smaller side.
I can't imagine why the big corporations wouldn't go in and buy all the micro licenses.
I think they want to, and I think they probably will. Certain ones are really eyeballing that.
Well, they're cheaper, they're faster. Like, that seems like a duh,
Yeah.
I think, how can you protect the small guys when Canada is just like 5 monster companies eating every company up?
Well, and I think a lot of the small guys don't want to be eaten up, and so they're sitting on the sidelines going, they probably could get bought up, or they can try to wait this out and hope that they can get their own micro grow license and, do this for themselves.
Wow. Yeah. It is exactly what we're going through in California and what every state has gone through. And I can't help but wonder why isn't the government learning from the lessons of everyone before them? But I think in the end, in California, it's lobbyists and, people with a ton of money, and they're the ones influencing all of the decisions. And I think that it sounds like that's the same in Canada. I always thought Canada was like all of these super nice people and besides the capitalists, but I at least thought they were more reasonable on a political level. But I guess politics is politics, and it has to do with money, and when money is involved, corruption is involved, and corruption, unfortunately, tends to dominate the cannabis industry.
Well, and, they every time you open, one of the newspapers online or something, it's some new lobbyist or ex-politician who, put a lot of people in jail for cannabis use is now, one of the new partners of a cannabis company.
Oh my God,
I'm sure that happened down there as well.
Oh yeah, Acreage, the ex-Speaker of the House, John Boehner, who has always been anti-cannabis. I just saw he noted something where he's like, cannabis industry, you should invest in it, and there's billions of dollars, and I puked in my mouth a little, and I'm just like, wow, dude, like, oh my God, I hate this. It just pisses me off so much. Like, you don't deserve to be in the industry. You don't deserve to profit off of the backs of all the people that have been in this for the passion, for the culture, that have risked their freedom, their money, their lives, their families. And now we have freaking ex-Republican Speaker of the House, like, pimping out cannabis. Like, I don't know, dude. It just sounds like a mirror, like Canada is just a mirror image of the U.S., and that's a shame, man, because I've always considered just marrying a Canadian and bailing out on the U.S. And, like, I thought Canada was better, but apparently it's the same.
I think that federal legalization, this is what we were all so excited about. We're going to be so different. We're going federally legal. This isn't like you guys. It's not state by state. It's going to all change.
Did the people vote for it? Was legalization a democratic decision, or was it a governmental decision?
I think a lot of people voted in Trudeau because his campaign promise was to legalize cannabis.
And he's cute. Yeah, the attractive politicians are the ones you need to be the most skeptical of. I have a feeling our governor-to-be, Gavin Newsom, he's attractive. I don't trust him at all, you know. It's a disability in the long run. But the thing with California is we voted in legal. I didn't vote it in, and most people in the cannabis industry, especially cultivators, saw the deceptiveness of legalization when we already had a decriminalized industry that was beautiful, and it has been destroyed by legalization because everyone thought, we're California, like, we should legalize. It's so ridiculous that it's not legal, and everyone should have access. It's like, dude, pay $40. We call them doctor recommendations because they're not prescriptions.
Yeah.
Pay $40, do a Skype interview, and then you have access to all the shops in the state. But now that we've legalized it, there's, the shops that are still open that haven't shut down, that aren't licensed. Those are now illegal. And so now it's like there's so few legal shops, and the illegal shops aren't necessarily charging taxes. Do they have a sales tax where you live? So there's a cannabis tax and then a sales tax, correct?
The sales tax is province-wide. Like, my province of Alberta doesn't have the same taxes that BC does. I think BC has HST and GST. I don't know if they're both imposed on cannabis. Alberta, though, when I was reading, we did something because us and a couple other provinces do have higher taxes over and above that $1. We have an additional, I think, 16.8% that our province is taking of taxes on cannabis.
Specifically from cannabis.
Yeah.
What about in general sales tax for other stuff?
We have
How much
our
is that?
For us, it's 5%.
So altogether, it's about 21% interest. 21% tax on cannabis products.
Well, that's at one level because I believe there's taxes on 3 levels. So you've got the licensed producers who are selling to the provinces who are selling to the retail stores. So don't know for certain, but I'm pretty sure. At one point, I remember reading somewhere, somebody said it's going to be between 30 and 40% at the end of the day what you're paying in taxes on your cannabis from a rec store. So I don't know if that's actually happened yet. Probably. I think there's a few levels of taxes besides what we just see on the product itself leaving the store. So
yeah, wow, it's literally California. I feel for you because I'm in California, and the whole reason I made this podcast and the whole reason I'm such a cynical person in the first place is because all I see is, people getting screwed over by every aspect, and by seeing people being fooled into voting for something, and then all of a sudden it happens and they're like, oh my God, like, what is this? This is crazy. We have a 45% sales. Altogether, 45% tax. So I remember someone bought a chocolate bar that used to be $20 for 180 milligrams, but now we have a 100 milligram limit, and now a chocolate bar is $40 for 100 milligrams. And I'll be damned before I ever spent, I keep saying this, but it's true. I will never pay taxes on cannabis. No, I'm sorry. Like, I've been through raids. Like, I've seen every company I've worked for pay for the right to exist, and I'm not giving the government my money, you know.
Well, and that's why I'm talking to you, because I had read about you in my past year, and I thought, what a cool chick, you know, way to stand up for your shit, like way to stand up for what you believe in. And yeah, so I think part of me is the too nice Canadian that's sitting here going, okay, well, you know, something good is bound to happen because so many things haven't gone my way. You know, it's going to all come together. And yet, I don't.
You're not. You are not like the too nice Canadian. You are a good person who was following your passion and trying to do everything right, and you got screwed over by corruption, basically.
You know,
you were saying there were 4 people bidding on the same place, right? And then in the end, it went to Nova Cannabis. And I can tell you my experience at my dispensary, when they created a control ordinance and they said all these shops had to be at least 1,000 feet away from all sensitive use, which is like childcare, schools, churches, et cetera, other shops. Well, our location happened to be perfect. And once the landlord figured that out, it went from $1,700 a month to $7,000 a month plus an ounce every week. Like, it was insane.
Oh my God.
We got
that sounds about right.
Yeah, exactly. This is not you. This is by no means you. This is why I'm here. This is what I do as an advisor, is I help people realize there is a ton of ways you can get screwed over, and we need to think of all of them, and you need to be able to know, do you have enough money to weather this storm? Because there will be a storm. There's always a storm. And good intentions do not equate to success. They just don't. Money. It's all about money and capital, period. You need the money to get the lobbyists to do your bidding. You need the money to be able to outbid everyone else on the real estate. And that is so typical. The landlords and the lawyers make the most money in the city.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I consider myself pretty damn lucky because I managed to come out of this without, you know, I didn't sign away any, and I'm sure this has happened. I know there's a lot of people that are in much worse situations up here than I am that potentially lost tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars possibly signing a lease that, you know, didn't qualify for the spot, or, you know, I really thought I was doing it the safest way possible and that I was, you know, anyway. But
do they have bankruptcy in Canada?
Yeah, they do.
So in America, you cannot file for bankruptcy if you had a cannabis touching company because you're essentially a drug dealer. So I tell people all the time, your financial mistakes in the cannabis industry, they'll follow you forever. It's almost like student loan debt. There's no bailing out of this. And especially when it comes to investors, I compare it to a marriage with no love. You're beholden to your investors and they want their money back, and there's no relief. So I think in the end, and I'm never the person who ends things on a positive note, but I think you lucked out because Nova Cannabis has the money to weather the storm, but you probably didn't. And it sounds like you would have had a shitty landlord. And that's another marriage with no love. But it's even worse because they own your store. Like you can't operate without that location. You had a hard enough time trying to find it.
I found out only recently too that the landlord, it was a little outdoor mall kind of complex that is in my community. That's the store open. Oh, and interestingly enough, Nova Cannabis is only one of 2 locations that open in Calgary on October 17th. So, and they're the only one of the 2 locations that somehow managed to have stock a lot longer than many others. And because it was only, I think a couple days ago, I decided to go check them out finally because the lineup seemed a little lower. And I went into 420 Premium Market first. And it wasn't until I had been in there for 10 minutes and I said, don't you guys have any cannabis? And they said, no, we're totally out. And I thought, you could have told me that before I I showed my ID and came in, but okay. And then I went over to Nova Cannabis right after that, and they had a very long lineup, and they still had fairly good stock. So, and I do know that the 420 premium market is more of a local, smaller business versus a larger business. So I'm starting to see already the power in connections to be able to maintain stock.
Nova is owned by whoever is owned by Aurora, who is one of the largest LPs in Canada, correct?
Yes, but they had got up there and promised that all retail stores were going to be treated equally and there was going to be no preferential treatment given to any of them. And
that's cute. Right. Yeah.
So, and apparently I think we have several more. I have a girlfriend who's working at a location that has stores open now, but they have absolutely no cannabis. So
now they have to pay their rent and pay everything else and not bring in any income.
Yeah, and what about their poor staff? What about like the 19 staff that quit their jobs to work in the cannabis store and now they only need, 2 of them because there's no product to sell? Yeah, it's quite heartbreaking.
Wow. So. Well, okay. So what are your words of advice for people with stars in their eyes?
Well, I was naive, and apparently, according to Arlene Dickinson, who is one of our Dragon's Den people, who I went out to a 420 event in Toronto and saw her speak about cannabis and entrepreneurship, and what she said was one of the greatest traits of an entrepreneur is naivety. And man, did I have that. I was so naive, but it led me down a path that I probably wouldn't have gotten as far had I had all that information. And yes, I was very lucky. Most people aren't as lucky. And so just make sure that before you decide with stars in your eyes that you're going to open your own little retail cannabis store, you know what you're getting into. Because, man, it was an eye-opener for me.
Very cutthroat. Yeah. Yeah, and if you are thinking about starting a cannabis touching company, then you should contact me and I will take the stars out of your eyes. Because I don't think that's a very good, I don't think naivety pays off in this industry whatsoever. And I'm really glad that things fell apart for you because it sounds like that was a good thing. And it sucks and it's painful, but I bet you learned a lot of valuable lessons.
Oh, absolutely. And the connections that I met in this industry, it is like nothing. It is, because there are passionate people that believe in this. A lot of them can't get into the white right now and maybe never. But I think it's more, I have to be thankful for all the wonderful people I've met along this way that, it's like I have all new friends now.
And there are other ways to work with the industry that do not touch cannabis.
Apparently, I'm hoping.
There are. So just keep networking, keep talking to people, and you might just find the right people that have an idea that you can be a part of. I mean, education is huge.
And this is the thing. Where is all that money going that they're taking in the taxes? They have not said what they're putting it towards yet, which it better be a giant chunk towards education because holy, is there a lack of that right now?
Oh, yeah, that's cute, too. In California, all of our tax revenue goes towards enforcement.
Nice.
It goes towards, you got to think California is the 5th largest economy in the world. So we need enforcement. The thing is the black market will always survive until you threaten people's freedom and profits. And right now, they just don't have the enforcement to do that in the first place. So, but I mean, they're putting money towards drug prevention programs for kids and how to catch people on cannabis DUIs and just not the general fund, not towards healthcare, not towards education, not towards schools. And California, I think, is unique in that because other states like Colorado put it towards education and other things. So,
well, you better get that part right.
I would like to think that Canada has a heart, but I'm starting to think that it's just another country, which is a bummer because I like Canadians. Well, I like Canadians. Canada is a little sketch. I love BC. I think that if I ever went anywhere, that's where I would go.
Well, I want you to bring your terpene class up here.
Oh, I want to so bad. I'm planning on it. If I can get the right sponsors, I would love to do a Canada tour.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to have you in my city. That would be awesome. It was super nice meeting you and chatting with you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. And I will link to your social media and other things so people can reach out to you if they have any ideas or, have you ever considered coming to America?
Yeah, I was down there many times over the past year before I knew that I could have got a lifetime ban because I had business cards that were cannabis related.
Freaking crazy, right? Like,
I know.
Oh, let's ban the cannabis Canadians.
I'm not going down there anymore, but I hear it's lightening up a little bit. I do like it down there. I mean, I'm not allowed to work down there. I know about fun stuff, but
well, you can marry an American. I just see marriage as a business contract with benefits.
There you go. 5-year single, so that's maybe possible at some point.
Hey, I'm with you, girl. I am with you.
Awesome. Okay, well, it was awesome chatting, Kristen.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Talk to you soon.
Okay.
The Canna BS Detector is produced by Soil to the Oil Media.